Hey everybody, what's going on? Hellmite here, bringing another video from Grab the Lantern today. Today I wanted to talk about Bel'Veth, as all of her lore has finally been revealed. There was a very nice teaser trailer that Riot have released as well to talk a little bit more about Bel'Veth and also show the connection to Kai'Sa. And I wanted to create this video, even though Bel'Veth's kit is not out yet. I will be doing a separate video on that when her kit is finally revealed. I was kind of hoping it would happen before too long, but that didn't end up happening. But I did want to create this video talking about Bel'Veth's lore because I've been very critical of Riot for what they've done for Bel'Veth's lore, and I feel like it's probably only fair for me to create this video to talk about the things that I actually think I like about Bel'Veth's lore going forwards. Now, for those of you who have not seen anything quite yet, I will have it all linked down in the description. There is a new color story, a bio, and a teaser trailer like I talked about before, and there's a lot that Riot have done to make me feel better about Bel'Veth as a Void inclusion. The biggest thing about Bel'Veth is that her human appearance, right, the woman in a cloak appearance, is, like I talked about that it might have been before, it's sort of an anglerfish type appearance. She appears to be human in order to get the attention of characters like Kai'Sa or like Malzahar or other humans to be able to say, hey, look at me, I'm totally human just like you guys, ha ha ha, listen to me. But the Manta Ray form is more accurately how Bel'Veth sees herself. That is the form she shows to Kai'Sa in the short story as sort of a way to say, no, this is actually who I am, but I'm going to adopt this human form because it's easier for humans in general to understand. I would argue Kai'Sa probably understands the Void form better, but that's neither here nor there. Kai'Sa's a bit of an exception. In that regard, I am a fan of the design. I'm very disappointed that the splash art Riot have chosen to use for Bel'Veth is one of her human form. That's not what the character actually looks like, so I don't know why Riot would then say this is the default appearance of the character, but, you know, she's going to change in-game. Presumably her splash art and icon will change in-game as well when she actually transforms, but I really wish they'd have kept the general Manta Ray as her default splash art, but I'm happy at least that the design that they've gone for is one that makes sense with the character, and that they have said, no, the Manta Ray is how she's actually supposed to look. I'm a big fan of that. Right, I've also managed to make the inter-Void conflict feel a little bit better to me, because in this regard, Bel'Veth is less of a Void Empress, right, the one in total charge of the Void, and more of the product of, again, an increased understanding in how the Void operates, which is something I talked about in my previous video where I was saying, unless Riot reveals something new about the Void that we didn't know about, this totally doesn't make sense. Well, turns out they've done just that, so I'm 0 for 2 on the Void approach here, first with Kai'Sa and then with Bel'Veth afterwards, but suffice it to say, I am actually a fan of the approach they've taken in that while the Void has a corrupting influence on reality, reality had a corrupting influence on the Void itself. The reality is probably the reason why we've gotten so many unique and individualistic Voidborn, even though the Void itself is generally very single-minded, and that's because reality has done some weird things to the Void. That's the reason why the Watchers have tried to show up and obliterate reality, because they're hoping if they get rid of it, everything can go back to the way it was before. But now that certain things have changed with the way the Void works, you have a character like Bel'Veth who is trying to lead these individualistic Voidborn who don't want everything to be obliterated. Instead, Bel'Veth's plan is different, but potentially no less sinister. Bel'Veth's plan is, if we can't, we don't want to destroy reality, but we'll make reality into the Void. And that sort of all will be one approach is still very alien, still very Eldritch. It reminds me, I hate making all of these obscure comparisons for you guys, but the Phyrexians from Magic the Gathering, it's very, very similar to that, and even just the conflict between two sort of factions that have nothing good in mind for the inhabitants of the world, but who are still sort of at odds with each other. That sort of is reminiscent of that, and I do like that approach. Especially given that the Watchers haven't been set apart as sort of a warring faction as much as they are the sort of old gods of the Void, right? Where you have the newer progenitors, led by Bel'Veth, who have a different opinion of reality and a different opinion of the Void, and then you have the old gods that are still slumbering under the true ice, who, if they were to wake up, would obliterate everything in reality, right? They would unmake it in its entirety, and Bel'Veth has basically said, if they wake up, there is nothing that can stop them. I can't stop them, you can't stop them, there is nothing we would do. So there is still the threat of sort of an Eldritch end of the world in store for Runeterra should the Watchers wake, Bel'Veth still promises a unique sort of end of the world as well, though, which is a story approach that I actually quite like. I also like that this character's development has been in progress for quite some time, starting all the way back with even if you want to really push it, we could talk about Rek'Sai, where Rek'Sai was seen in one of her color stories doing some really weird stuff out in the desert. She's presumably the one behind the large tunnels that were created between the Sculptor Conclave and with the city of Bel'Veth that was destroyed. That's where Bel'Veth gets her name. And so Rek'Sai was clearly on board with Bel'Veth before, and we've gotten an understanding now that the tunnels that Rek'Sai was creating are basically a way for the Void to take things from various different places in Shurima and bring it down to Bel'Veth's domain, which is known as the Lavender Sea. And then this is sort of the progenitor bubbling pool for all of the sort of new form Voidborn that are going to be coming out, which I think is an interesting take on it. But so Kai'Sa's whole story, right, was pursuing down this tunnel, meeting with Talia, going to this conclave, and then Kai'Sa eventually working her way to Bel'Veth and meeting with Bel'Veth, as it turns out, and sort of having this conversation with her. But this story has been in progress for the last few months now, and that's a really cool thing to see that Riot are doing. I hope they continue to do this. I hope that, for example, Bel'Veth has revealed to Kai'Sa that her dad is still alive. I would love to see a meeting between Kai'Sa and Kassadin at this point and see their different takes on the subject. Kai'Sa, for example, may be sympathetic towards Bel'Veth's quest. Kassadin would probably not be. There's some interesting things that they can possibly do, and I hope that they continue to develop this story, because that's the key for me, is just ongoing plot development. They really need to make sure that they keep this going, because otherwise it sort of won't make much of a difference whether or not you actually did, you know, a cool cinematic. But I like how the cinematics have been tied together, how the story so far has been tied together, and I hope that Riot continue to do it alongside newer releases for continuing the Pantheon story, the Sejuani story, and some of the other things that they've already set up. So ultimately, I think that while Bel'Veth is still disappointing in a couple of different regards, I'm actually okay with the character. I think that Riot have done some okay things. We'll have to see about the kit still. Obviously, that hasn't come out quite yet, so we'll see when that actually releases, and I'll do another video on that to detail it for those of you who are just interested in the gameplay aspects. But at least as far as character-wise, I think Bel'Veth does some interesting things, and I'm excited to see what Riot choose to do with her going forwards. Anyways, you guys will have to let me know what you think of Bel'Veth down in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed the video today, go ahead and leave it a like, and if you really enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. I upload a video every Monday, Friday, and on patch days as well. Once again, thank you guys so very much for watching. I do appreciate it, and I'll talk to you all later.